Hey everybody, we're live with my friend Ray Bobbitt of AASEG African American Sports Entertainment Group with a gigantic announcement. Ray, congratulations, and I would love you to do the honors of making the official announcement here on Zinni 62.
Sure. So we've officially reached material terms with the A's to purchase their 50% interest in the Coliseum site that they now are holding through the county of Alameda. So it's a very, very incredible development. It's been a great negotiation process. We've worked together really hard. Our teams have worked together really hard on it. So this actually allows for us to have tacit site control, where one group would be finally in possession of the property singularly. And so this is obviously helps expedite the process of development, and equally as important, it preserves the opportunity for professional sports to still be at the site.
So first of all, congratulations. Yeah. Second, what were some of the stumbling blocks in getting from there to here where we are right now?
Well, I think that the main thing was that there was so much uncertainty what their plans were going to be, whether they were going to stay, whether they were going to, do Howard Terminal. So it took a long time for us to kind of create the right pathway, just because there was so much uncertainty within their organization as to where they were going to be building their next stadium. So that created a time frame issue with respect to us just having a clear pathway to get the site. So I think that was the first thing. I think that the second thing was, just kind of being able to kind of get on the same page with respect to just some of the material terms, I think. But it really helped when we were negotiating during the extension process. So we really got together and really started kind of working together. And I think we realized that we would, regardless of how that outcome occurred, we were going to keep moving forward. And I think just sometimes sitting in front of people and getting a good feel for people, and understanding what each other's objectives are, makes it a lot easier.
Hey, so on that note, let's talk about those terms. What are those pricing terms? What do they look like?
So our price with the county or with the A's will be 125 million, and it's different from the city only because, as you are aware, the A's took responsibility for the over and above operating costs of the county side. So that was, I think, in their disposition agreement. It says up to $5 million per year. Also, we were able to buy a lot of their due diligence they did during the 6 months that they had to do with the county when they were buying it. So we were able to negotiate getting a lot of that product that we won't have to then redo. They did a tremendous amount of due diligence and studies and things of that nature. So
It saves a lot of money, huh?
yeah, I think it was. I mean, when you consider that it's only, it's $20 million more than we paid the city, but we get a lot for that. And it's, so we had to make sure that the expenses that they had accrued could be contemplated into the total price. That's that piece. And then we are, working hard towards the assignment of the disposition agreement from the county. So obviously this is all contingent upon an approval from the county, where they would have to essentially assign the rights that the A's currently have to us, because, as you know, they don't technically take possession of the property until after the bonds are defeased in 2026.
Right.
So we would essentially step into their shoes.
Now, curious to know. First of all, let's set everybody straight on what this means. You now have the whole, details aside, you have the whole Coliseum.
Correct. That's right.
The whole thing. Okay. So the obvious next question is, what happens to the Joint Powers Authority? I mean, you and I talked about offline, but I want the people to hear it from your voice.
Yeah, I think what happens there is that I think the bonds, when they defease, the Joint Powers Authority dissolve. It is no longer, but they do keep it intact for administrative purposes to just kind of work through the bonds. So the JPA would be in place probably up through, February or March of 2026 in its current capacity. And then after that, it would have an administrative process, which it could still stay in place indefinitely if you were to do things like we've talked about, like an EID or whatever you wouldn't want to necessarily completely disassemble the body, because it's an opportunity to have both agencies, municipalities working together. And so it would be, and I think you've suggested that before. So that would be one of the benefits of
I think
keeping
I
the
more than
administration.
suggested it, but
Yeah, no. I mean, you stated it. So, I mean, I think that would be
I think
one
kind
of,
of a butthole about it, actually, Ray.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I think that was a great call for it to remain in place for administrative purposes, because it still has that legal capacity.
Now, people need to understand something, and I think it's really important that they do. And I know when I say it, you'll agree with me and fill in the blanks from what I'm about to say. Uh, this all started with you, AASCG, winning the competition for the city land. It wasn't, oh, there's this land deal and you bid on it. You already have the ENA. So this is a logical process part of the ENA, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the ENA is designed to negotiate with the city. And so we started that process, 3 years, or, we've been in this process for almost 3 years. But we started with the city 18 months ago. And so the objective was to just negotiate terms. So we were in the ENA, we had a pathway to a DDA, which is a development and disposition agreement.
Yep.
But we were able to accelerate that process to a purchase and sell and development agreement. So the purchase and sell and development agreement just allows things to move a lot quicker. And so we felt like this was good for multitude of reasons, not because just of the budget situation. I think that's categorized that way. But truthfully, it was an opportunity to help, establish public safety in the city. But also, it was able to allow us to accelerate with the time frame with the A's that really nobody was talking about. So we couldn't really talk about it. And so that was very helpful, because now we have a pathway to where this site can potentially close at the same time.
Now, there are people who I believe, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I think they misunderstand what this is about. This is really about building a development complex that ultimately generates enough money to pay for itself. And then the ancillary money, for want of a better term, is collected by the city and the county, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, right now, as a lot of people don't realize, but there's a pretty serious subsidy from the city and the county every year. I think last year was the first time that they actually got money back, if I'm not mistaken, and I think
That's
that
right.
may have been through the Warriors lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I think that, but generally speaking, it's been a pretty significant subsidy. There's been no property taxes collected on the site because they're exempt. So really, turning it into private hands is really going to be positive for the city from a cash flow perspective and the tax base. And so we really, and the other thing we're grateful for is historic with respect to this being an African American and women led organization. It's pretty amazing. That is a huge factor. And then, also just being in a position where we can, an organization that's going to preserve sports. We're going to have a mixed development, obviously, with housing, with, open space, with, arts and culture. But entertainment and sports is something that we want to use as a vehicle. So it's not being sold to an entity that's going to use it just purely for commercial industrial uses. So it really allows for the opportunity for Oakland to remain, available as the only shovel-ready site for professional sports.
Now, where are you? I'm gonna ask questions I kind of know the answer to, and I know the answer to, but I'm gonna ask them because the public may not know. But where are you in terms of developing an actual plan? And I would say you're probably not even there yet, but a plan that basically says, here's our sources of money, here's our uses, and here's the timetable where we expect to go from where we are now to completion of phase 1, 2, 3, and so on. I think I lost your volume, some adjustment you made.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
So I think one of the issues was that, you know, when we didn't have this deal with the A's, we couldn't even really go to the planning commission to file a permit. You can't really do planning because it's an
Right.
undivided interest. So you can't really do any planning. because if we came up with a site plan and they didn't agree with it, or they came up with a site plan and we didn't agree with it, we're kind of in this unique position. So now we can actually start the site planning. Now we can sort of put into a timeline into place. Now we can start looking at phases. I think in every iteration the arena would stay. I think it's doing great. I mean, the 41 dates that the arena got back after the Warriors left has catapulted it into the top 10 in ASM's properties. And so, I mean, they're top performer. I mean, so it means that people still like coming to that site and being assembled publicly to watch entertainment. So it's really healthy from that perspective to have, sold out concerts, and, to have, sold out concerts in the stadium as well. So we realize that, this site is still great for that. So the planning piece, we can now all start focusing on. We can start going through, the community input. We can start working on community development agreements, and we can start kind of working through that process now. But before, it was really just
You there?
Yeah. So
Okay.
sorry about that.
Oh, no
So
problem.
it was somewhat speculative before. So now we have a lot more clarity, and that's what the great thing about this is. I mean, you could just see it. It's like opening up, it's just opening up a complete pathway now.
How does it feel to be here as opposed to where you were when the whole WNBA issue was up and you didn't really have a stick, right? Now you have a giant stick.
That's right.
How does that feel?
It feels incredible. I mean, you've been supporting us and following us from the beginning, good and bad, and so you've had a front row seat to this process. And so, I mean, it really feels great because now there's a there. And
Yeah.
there was always sort of a speculation. There was always speculation about whether the A's would actually ever sell to us. There was speculation we could get the city deal done and so on and so forth. So now that those pieces and those milestones have been met, we can start moving with a lot more certainty. And so that in itself is going to really make the professional sports leagues and, other people who want to just invest in general into this incredible revitalization of East Oakland more certain.
Yeah,
and time certain.
And I have to remind you, and I know you're going to chuckle when I remind you of this. When I brought up AASEG to Commissioner Goodell at the Atlanta NFL meeting, he gave a chuckle like like I thought he was going to,
Yeah.
Bring up his food or something. But it was like, But
Yeah.
now, I'd love to present that to him again because and see what his reaction is. I know you early on tried to work to get inroads with the NFL, but now, and I know this is all preliminary.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts regarding not just the NFL, but also working with developers in general? Like, let's say Disney were to come along, or let's say you were to go after Disney. Do you? And I'll take this out of order. Do you welcome developer partners? I know there's this balance between developer partner and community, but you need the developers in their financial heft too.
That's right.
They may want to play along, right? What say you about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, obviously, one of our primary objectives is sports and entertainment as a vehicle to create economic development in District 6 and 7, which are the most highly impacted. We know that that's something that we've always had as a objective from the beginning. I lost my sound there. Sorry about that.
Oh no, that's okay. Go ahead.
So I think that I think that having tacit site control is a different conversation with the NFL or any sports league now. I mean, it's a completely different conversation now because we did not have that opportunity. We didn't have that access. And so this is a game changer. But clearly we would invite developers now that we can site plan, whether it be, you mentioned Disney or whoever it might be, we can look at it. But I think as long as the developer is in alignment with helping revitalize East Oakland and trying to create jobs and really has an openness to sports and entertainment, I think we can certainly work with anybody.
Yeah, and I mentioned Disney because around the country, there's a move toward, as you know, sports and entertainment, and these events bring a lot of attention to the host city, more so than they did in the pre-internet world. And so that's why I mentioned Disney, because Disney's at the forefront of a new type of development, which is actually based on a kind of old type of development. That's why I mentioned them, not so much just because they're Disney, but because of what their direction, their financial health, and also the trend world around the country and really around the world, if you think about it, in terms of sports themed development. And also what's going on in places like Jacksonville with not just their new stadium, right? But I mean, their version of LA Live, which really started it all. And so now, you are in this position to where you can actually establish the Oakland Live version of LA Live, right? And within that, Shachai, one of our supporters, has this question. He says, ask Ray if the Coliseum structure could be saved. So I'll wrap all that into the,
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head with sports tourism. Sports and entertainment tourism. It includes, a lot. A lot of the convention business is smaller now. They don't have the need in a lot of instances for the massive convention halls. So these things can be incorporated into medium-sized facilities that could potentially have other sports, and you could incorporate conventions. But I think the LA Live concept is exactly right. ASM, who's working at who manages the stadium and the arena, actually own LA Live, and so it's a great alignment there. They're certainly will be part of the site planning because the arena will stay. The arena will be a great center point, much like Staples Center is at LA Live. So, for new hotels or new restaurant row, a Top Golf, whatever the case may be, that could be one phase of the development where we focus on the entertainment, sports tourism side of things. So I think that's
ASM expressed interest in being a fee developer.
We haven't spoken that far, but we've certainly just gotten to the conversations about arena preservation. It's one of their top performing arenas, of course. So they are very much interested in making sure that can continue. And so they would like to participate in our, site planning. So they're a huge organization. I think they're merging with Legends at the end of this month. So that's going to be a massive organization to be able to work with.
Now, having said that, and they're merging with Legends and their involvement, let's talk about, you mentioned the marina, but let's focus on the stadium.
Oh, right.
What would you like to see done with the stadium?
So I think it's going to all depend on kind of what the site plan ends up being. I believe that I think a lot of people would really like to see the Coliseum stadium become a version of Soldier Field or Lambeau Field or something along those lines. Something that's a Yankee Stadium or just a stadium, or Fenway, a stadium that just has so much iconic culture connected to it that it could be continuously sort of redesigned and rebuilt. But I know that if the NFL, my thinking would be that NFL and other large sports leagues want new stadiums and new modern stadiums. That's a huge part of SoFi and other areas that we have a blueprint for. And so I would imagine that depending on the outcome of kind of where we land with pursuing professional sports, we will be able to make that determination. But I would imagine that just from the standpoint of what we've heard and what we've seen, most people think that the stadium is probably at the end of its viability at this point. So, but it doesn't mean that there can't be conceptually somebody might come along and want to sort of trademark it as a just sort of a historic type of stadium because it has so much history.
Well, I know Mark Davis, when I don't think you know this story, but long story short, when I was at the 2015 NFL Spring League meeting, I ambushed Mark about whether or not he was going behind our back, and this is all on cameras on Zenny 62 here. But afterward, Mike Silver and I, Mike and I have been since '86. We were all talking about the new PAT rule at the time, and then finally I said to Mark, "Hey, you know what? You got to start a task force about the stadium." He goes, and I said, "Come up with a plan." He goes, "No, you come up with a plan." And I said, "What?" He says, "You come up with a plan and send it to Will Kiss over here." Okay. So I did. And then I shared it with Mark. I walked into him at Schaumburg and I said, "Mark, I got $2 billion in my pocket," because I carved out a $2 billion stream. He told me it was for renovation. He told me I don't want a renovation. I want something brand new. So that's a taste, I think, of what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And my thought, however, is it's a good way, and I think it was where Shochai is getting at regarding Universal and the African American Circus Company. But it's a good way to get the community involved in how and what the disposition of the stadium should be, since it's such a community asset, right?
Yeah, I mean that's 100% right. I think the whole development approach has to be community input,
On it, absolutely.
and I
Yeah,
think that it's
absolutely.
really the thing that people have to remember is that the Coliseum complex serves the entire East Bay region. I mean, and that's massive, so, and there's a hole right now, and there's a huge need. And we're seeing it with the concert business. We're just seeing everything sold completely out. And, we're knowing that when you have a product there and you're pushing it, it's going to be highly successful because people have become so comfortable with coming to that complex to be entertained. They can get there via BART, Amtrak, airport connector, and 2 exits off the freeway, AC Transit turnaround. I don't think there's a more transportation rich site in the country. I think the NFL, when they came here, they were blown away. I think the contingent of people who came here to tour it during the Lot Fortress time, they were just blown away at the transportation intersect. And I think that we're just in a great position and we're shovel ready. So we're really excited about all the prospects there are. And you've had the front row seat to this. So we really want to get input from the entire East Bay region. Really excited about the new chapter in this site. So and we're just glad to be here to be able to facilitate it as sons and daughters of Oakland. So
Now, one thing you've got, I would think, unless you're already there, but I would think now you have to reform AASEG as a company. And what I mean is, I'm not talking about the current stuff and all that flotsam, but I'm really seriously talking about a company that has different divisions like planning, administrative, not so heavy, but basically structured so there's a true development company. Have you all already laid out those plans? Do you know what that's going to be, what the cost is, and when and how long it's going to take to restructure the company along those lines?
yeah, I mean, obviously that's something that we had already kind of started working on preliminarily. We understand that the mission and the objective and the vision to get here and all the local relationships was important for the multitude of organizations that are involved. But, our consortium understands that we need to have all this kind of put together, and this is going to be very, very important. So but we are already have the infrastructure for it. It's set up that way. It was set up that way from the beginning, and so it's exciting because we have a multitude of different entities within the AASEG structure that were set up by the attorneys when the structure was put together, and contemplated that exact thing where you have a operations entity and you have a holdings entity and you have all these, because some may not want to intersect with others, and you
Right.
can't it needs to be segregated to some degree, and certain things need to be compartmentalized. So if you have developers coming in, you have institutional capital coming in, all these different situations have to be segregated in such a way. So in our inception we did that, and so I think we're now, like you said, moving in a direction of sort of activating those uh, those pieces of the structure, and it will certainly be a professional development organization that will have collaborations with major development.
Now, let's say Joe Lacob called you and said, "Hey, I want to partner with you. I want to discuss a partnership. Would you be open to that?"
Yeah, I mean, I think we're open to partnering with anybody. I think that this site is so big that one entity would be choking on it. I mean, it's such I mean, the Coliseum specific plan is 800 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is 112 acres of that 800 acres, and I think.
Oh, I lost Ray somehow. I think his Gremlins. What the heck was that? He'll be back though. Let's see here. I think the only way that could have happened is possibly if lost you, lost you, is if he his phone ran out of battery power, maybe. Um, Somebody figured out how to hack a signal in there to bump him off. Let's see here. Let me try to. There he is. There you are. Unmute you there. Yeah.
I'm in my vehicle. You're the first person I spoke to, so I got another meeting at 9:30, but I just wanted to make sure
cool.
we spoke first. So.
Oh, I appreciate that. Absolutely. So I got that means I got effectively 3.5 minutes. I'll take it.
Right.
Okay. From here, what are the immediate next steps? You told us about the county, right?
Yes. So the immediate next steps is to just continue to negotiate and complete the purchase and sale agreement with the city and the acquisition agreement on the county and the A's, and then get that approved. We've already been approved by the city as we so that piece is done. But the county, we have to get the disposition assignment completed, and that needs to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. But
go ahead. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, that's it. No, that's the next steps.
Curious question. Why didn't the A's say, hey, you know what? We want to have a foot in here. We'll partner with you. I thought that was the original idea anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I think that we originally kind of talked about a cooperation agreement with them. And I just think that as we sort of matured through the process of negotiation, I just think I think their plans are what their plans are. And, I'm not, I think it became clear that it would be better just in general to have one entity, have own it, because in 55 years, it's been this, interest that was undivided. So nobody could really do anything with it. And I think we all concluded that it's probably better in private hands just to have one entity be the sort of master developer and planner, just so they could be smoother.
Yeah. Interesting.
But we had a positive negotiation with them.
Congratulations on it. Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just a matter of just remaining steadfast and persistent. And, you go through a lot of ups and downs during a process this big, and you just want to kind of, be resilient and just keep pushing forward. And then, I appreciate all the support.
Yeah. Quick question too, but as I get out of here, when do you tell the community, okay, this input is great, but this can't work because it can't pencil out. That can't work because it can't pencil out. I mean, at some point, somebody's got to be the bad dog, right? I mean, that's, I'm used to that. So my point is, have you thought about that? Because you don't want to get into a situation, I'm just saying from experience, where you become everything to everybody, and then they suddenly turn on you and say, well, you didn't do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. That's right. Well, the good news is that we have the Coliseum specific plan, and that's a great document, and it considers 3 sports venues. And so it also considers a total mixed use of, multitude of different things, including housing and open space and arts and culture and, life sciences or whatever, retail. It considers everything, really.
Well, I guess what I'm saying real quick, just to not be misunderstood, but it's a problem in Detroit. They promised a lot of affordable housing. They really needed extraordinarily affordable because the median was $35,000. Okay. And so they haven't been able to deliver even with all this improvement. So there's still this gap problem. And because of that, the economics of providing extremely affordable housing and yet dealing with a developer that doesn't want to pay into a tax for tax increment financing, unless you know how to design the tax increment, take, it fails. So at that point, you either build something and it doesn't pencil out, or you wind up considering it and saying, we can't pay for that. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's something that I'm laying out what's going to be a problem.
Sure. No. I think you're 100% right. I mean, anytime you're planning a development of this size, there's always going to be a tremendous amount of input from the community. And because this is public land, that's moving into private hands,
right.
You really have to be conscious of what people want to see and like. And so, but I do think that you're right about kind of right sizing expectations with respect to what can happen and what is capable of occurring, because sometimes there could be a disconnect at how things might pencil versus what people might want. And so I think just being out ahead of that and being transparent from the beginning is really critical. And so I think that you're 100% right. We're going to need to do that from the beginning.
And I'm not saying, folks, that square can't be circled. It
Yeah,
can.
that's right.
Most of the country, it's not.
That's right.
And you're going to get people throwing that, out.
That's
so,
right.
just, fair warning, right?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Now,
Well, thank you,
you got.
Zinnig,
Thank you. Hey,
for having me. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. You got it.
All right, we'll talk more.
All right, boss. See you, man.
Bye-bye.
All right, see ya. Yeah, that was Ray Bobbitt, folks. I call my friends boss, so don't take that the wrong way. But he did it. He did what a vast majority of people, including some of our persuasion in terms of color, said he could not do. And I think Ray is to be applauded for his steadfastness, all the things that he went through, both personally and professionally, to get to this point. And he needs our support, even if it's just an attaboy or a thumbs up from this point on. Let me get some of your comments here. Sir Chai, I want to thank you. Sir Chai says, the NFL needs to understand not every city can afford a new stadium. A renovated Coliseum with, quote, new amenities, unquote, could still host big events. But appreciate you, Zenny Ray. Thank you. Earl Jacobs. Hey, Earl, how you doing? Earl writes, I hope for much success for you and your team, Teray. Thank you for wanting to take on the challenge of revitalizing that part of the community. And then Sir Chai says, good point, Zenny, 62, but the Coliseum is private now. When it was public, Oakland and the citizens missed the affordable housing part. It sucks, but it's private now. No, I completely 100% disagree. That's absolutely wrong. There is a gigantic political and professional price to pay when you believe that because a transaction is going to private hands, that organization has no responsibility for affordable housing, particularly if the exclusive negotiating agreement was let with the understanding, that AASEG is going to cause affordable housing and ideally extremely affordable housing to be built. So you can't just say, oh, hey, we got it. Oh, sorry, we're gone. Woo. Okay. That will get you in a world of trouble. It'll get you sued. Okay. I mean, forget the public dialogue. It will get you sued. It will get you sued by a player, the city of Oakland, that will have the right to sue you because they believe you sandbagged them. All right. That's wrong. And on top of all of that, it is possible to achieve affordable housing. It isn't how it's paid, it isn't how it's done. The current crop of elected officials think, for the most part, that the developer has to pay entirely for the affordable housing themselves and take a bath on it, as opposed to having a partnership with a public entity like the city, and then having the city come in and provide what's called gap subsidies to make what would normally be market rate affordable. Think about it. You get a better quality structure at a truly affordable level. But then there's this other problem. And that problem exists with, look, the John Fishers of the world, okay? John Fisher is not a guy who likes to pay taxes. Not saying he doesn't pay them, but look, the one thing that I gathered from my many conversations with Dave Cowell, the president of the A's, was that they didn't understand, with respect to tax increment finance, that you have to pay your property tax in order for the engine of tax increment financing to work. Why? Because the formula works like this, all right? Base year assessed value. That base year assessed value times the tax rate to the landowners within that area, all right, causes a payment of property tax at X. X is that amount, okay? They have to pay that. Now, if you have a John Fisher comes along and says, I don't want to pay any taxes at all, Guess what? This math of tax increment financing is done away with. Why? What's 0 times 0? 0. In other words, let's say that you're paying $1. Here's $1. Here's another dollar. That's $2. 2 times 1 or 2 times 0 is 2, right? So that's a $2 tax increment times the rate, okay? And that's the revenue that's going to be going to tax increment financing. You keep doing that for a 45-year period as allowed in California, or 30 years in Nevada's case, and that gives you your money. But if they don't want to pay it, you've got nothing. All right? So you would say, wow, that really kills my TIF, right? Doesn't it, right? Well, yes and no. Here's how you design your way around it. You say, all right, I know I've got 55 acres of land. Let's say Howard Terminal, right? I've got 55 acres of land. Cool. That 55 acres will eventually be owned by the A's, but we're still going to use tax increment financing within it. Okay? So what happens is this. The A's don't pay a tax on what they own. But in the sublease, they can transfer or pass on those payments to those developers that want to build on the land, right? So guess what? Since the tax increment financing property is the entire 55 acres, you still get your increment. It's just that you're able to carve out what John Fisher doesn't want to pay. And yet you would say, well, isn't he still benefiting from it? The answer is, yeah, he is. But the trade-off is you're getting someone who's going to amass several $billion to build a gigantic structure, which is privately owned, which would then throw off sales tax revenue, fees, and other revenue because of the people that it attracts. But also, it will also attract development around it done by other developers. In my conversation with Dave Cobble, they openly, he said many times, they welcomed developer partners. They welcomed developer partners, obviously, in the case of Las Vegas with Bally's and Gaming and Leisure, right? So again, it is possible to square that circle, but where you have to have it is your anchor developer of the developers, your anchor developer. If they say, look, we can't pay taxes, we don't want to, you got to design it. All right. You got to design it so that you collect that another way. And the other way has to be through the other developers of the property. It has to be with these other parcels. Ideally, you want to make it bigger so you can get more of it. So that what happens is that what once looked like an insurmountable problem becomes just merely a blip, right? That's how you do it. The trouble is a lot of people don't do it that way. They kind of see like, oh, they don't want to pay anything. I can't deal with this, Well, you know what? It's math. And you're really you're quite literally entering designer math to work out the problem. That's what you're doing. It's not like you're going to Sears. Like, a lot of the people who write about this, they act like, first of all, they communicate the fact they have no idea how this stuff works. Then they ask other people who also have no idea how this stuff works because they've never had to, have their blankety blank on the blank, to worry about what they're submitting because somebody else is paying them to be right, counting on them to be right. Doesn't matter if it's a county official or a city council, a mayor, or a private developer. If you're evaluating, you're writing a report for a decision maker, it's on you to be right. And so a lot of these folks who do this have never been in that position. And so I have. And so it looks like I'm going to wind up being in it again with respect to Tennessee, but whatever. Point I'm making is that that you have to design a agreement of who pays what tax that is unique to that development and what those developers want and what the project calls for. And so right now, and this goes back to the whole matter of affordable housing. how do you achieve affordable housing, but at the same time, because it calls for a subsidy, but at the same time, do the subsidy without taxing the main developer? That's the problem. Okay. Oh, I think Ray's coming back. Ray, you back? Ray? Oh, I thought he was coming back. At any rate, yeah. So, but he had something to say. Let me make sure. Say Ray coming back. Saskia was coming back. Yeah. So, anyway, Jamal says, this is great. I love the fact that they're a Black-owned group. It is a milestone. No question about it. It is a milestone. And a lot of this is past time to happen, happening more often. I mean, look, we are on the cusp of, because I think Kamala Harris is going to blow Donald Trump out of the water. We're on the cusp of the first Black female president. Do you realize that? We are, 96 days away and counting. All right. We're at this place where we should be. What does it matter what color somebody is? What does it matter what sex they are? Orientation, for that matter. Who cares? Can they do the job? Do they have the rightness of purpose? Those are the only things that everybody should be concerned about. So Chai says, I understand. Cool. Artie says, Oakland and California experts are wasting money. I don't understand where you want to explain that, because I would argue that California and Oakland have not wasted any money at all. Do you realize that Oakland has never done a significant tax increment financing subsidy project of large scale? And yet we have had all of these redevelopment project areas until they were killed in 2011, with unfortunate thanks to California Governor Jerry Brown. Do you realize that? And do you realize that since then, Oakland has never established a tax increment financing zone? So when you say wasting money, what do you mean? Are you referring to how we get the money? Are you saying, well, I don't like all these parcel taxes and all these stacking of taxes that make my property taxes go up higher? And I would say, yeah, I agree with you, because Oakland could have gotten the affordable housing trick done without going there. My issue with Oakland is that you have scores of people on the street that are homeless. You want to force them into shelters. You don't say to any one of them, hey, we will give you $5,000 each or $10,000 each. 10,000 is better. And we will help you find new housing, affordable, and also help you get your life on track where it's necessary to do that. Some people just have a stumble. Others have significant alterations, all right? So I would say, why not take $100 million gained via tax increment financing, and then citywide, okay? And then use that to give it to landlords and give it to tenants who need the help, rather than say, well, wait for affordable housing to be built. That's cruel. You're asking people who need help now to wait on a future that may never happen, and to the degree it needs to. Because what happens is that you wait on this future and you turn around and you got thousands of people waiting for shelter, and you get this announcement that, well, we have 250 new affordable housing units. Huh? As opposed to 2,500. Okay? Which could really do the trick. Okay? I mean, if that doesn't sound like stuck on stupid, I don't know what does. But that is stuck on stupid. But it's even dumber for society to actually allow this charade to go on and have every politician sound like Polly the parrot saying, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, rap. I will build affordable housing, rap, affordable housing. But that's what's going on. If that doesn't make you pissed off, there's something wrong with you. I mean, straight up, something wrong with you, okay? Max Maverick says, hey, Zinni, will Las Vegas even exist in 40 years? Just asking because I heard water shortages are an issue. Sure. I mean, we have something called technology. You know, always remember that technological change is a factor in development. It's a factor in environmental change. And it will be more of a factor going forward. That's why I get tired of the no call people and the know this people and know that, because they demonstrate these are some of the same people that say, well, I read Scientific American, I read this, but what did you really read? They didn't read anything to learn. They read something to make you think they're smart. And they'll take that one thing they want to believe, right? And they'll hang on to it and say, well, I read this in Nature. Well, I read this and this, and I read this and that, but you didn't actually read it. And not only that, you didn't really think it through. And not only that, it's the only thing you read, and you didn't challenge your own thinking. There's a lot of that going on, especially in the Bay Area parlance. And I love the Bay Area, but it's a fact. You have to remember, folks, John Muir lived in the Bay Area for a time and had these ideas of eugenics and that, you know, someone white was better and all this other stupid ass, you know, wacko stuff. But he had this idea of the rightness of his claims because he believed he was smarter than you. And there are a lot of people in the Bay Area who believe that they're smarter than you, including me. That's true. That's our culture. Okay. It's there for a lot of reasons. It's formed our educational systems, but it does really inform how we relate to each other. Okay. And out of that, you get a lot of very just movements because you have a set of people that have really studied a problem and they come up with a solution, and they believe that they are the ones to best advocate for the policies and programs to fix as the solution. All right. And good on them, you know, and good on them. But my point I'm making is that you have to always, when you get into those circles, you have to avoid the group think. You have to say at one point, hey, what is this? Are we too much of a group here? And we're not really thinking against our own ideas and asking, hey, wait a minute, what are we not considering? Like, why aren't we considering technology? Why aren't we considering the ability to change? Why aren't we considering engineering, right? But there's a lot of that goes on. That's why, and as you can tell, I'm really passionate that this is a problem, because it is. All right. Max says, just asking because pro sports moving. Well, right, but I think in pro sports, I think what you mean to say is pro sports attracts people. And so because of that, you would rightly expect the population of Las Vegas to grow to some point. And the question is, you know, and it's a good question. I don't have the answer right now. What is the total carrying capacity of Las Vegas? I don't have that answer. Maybe Jeremy Arguello does. And I'll ask him. I try to get him to come on once, but he never responds. He'll say hi to me if I'm on a stream, but he will not talk to me privately, which is weird. Whatever. Anyway, my whole point is, I think Jeremy might have some idea that somebody like who's one of his counterparts. I think it's a question that needs to be answered. What is Las Vegas carrying capacity in terms of population? Good question. Jamal says, weird question. Would you ever see a time where the Raiders could come back to Oakland? It has happened before. You never say never. But you have to remember something. It's not so much can it happen, but why? And you'd have to say that given, okay, first of all, before I answer it that way, let's just take a look at why they left LA. Why did they leave LA? The Raiders left LA because it was Al Davis' belief that he was being sandbagged by the LA County Coliseum Commission. All right. And in fact, I met one of the commissioners down there, thanks to the late Tom Berkeley, Thomas Berkeley, who started the Oakland Post. Good man. We were on a flight a momentary aside here. Mr. Berkeley takes me by and be like, young man, I'm going to teach you how to talk to these folks, and I'm going to make you a great young man. Because Elihu, when my boss, Elihu Harris, asked me to go down to LA with Mr. Berkeley for a meeting with the Coliseum Commission. And Tom, will you talk your ears off? I'll tell you about the time I met Clint Eastwood. Young man. I'm like, yeah. Anyway. Oh, Tom Berkeley is a great guy. Anyway, I think. Anyway, the Raiders didn't get what they wanted. They wanted luxury suites. The LA County Coliseum Commission was too slow, way slow, even paying attention to following through on the promise of luxury suites and revenue that Al Davis sought. So, on top of that, let's face it, the team stopped winning. They got used to LA and the tinsel and all that. Was it Jimmy Stewart, but the other guy that played the Rockford Files, that was always on the sidelines. Big fan of his too. Well, not if I was a big fan, I'd never forget his name. But James, hey Siri. Who is the actor on the Rockford Files?
The Rockford Files features James Garner, Noah Beery Jr.
James Garner.
Of course.
James Garner. That's the guy. Thank you, Siri. James Garner. This is handy stuff, right? James Garner. And he's, but the wins weren't coming. And Al Davis' idea is, hey, look, he doesn't care about flotsam and jetsam. Sure, he had the Raiderettes and cheerleaders, right? Like the Cowboys cheerleaders. But Al Davis' belief was marketing wasn't something you needed to do. Winning was marketing. If you're not winning, they're not going to come to see you. That was his belief. Which I think was challenged by the persona he established, because there are people who just, hey, love wear silver and black and be Raiders, all right? And be Raider Nation. And so they left that for Oakland. Al came back to Oakland because he wanted to win. He wanted the mystique. He loved the city's persona. And think about why. Again, his son Mark left. Mark wanted a new stadium. The city was dragging its feet. It was doing that. Okay? So now the Raiders have their own stadium. Now, if you say to me, hey, look, it's really owned by the the Las Vegas Las Vegas Stadium Authority, I would say, yeah, but the Raiders actually own the revenue stream. So when you see when you go to the Rolling Stones concert at Allegiant, who gets that money? The Raiders. If there's a truck pull, who gets that money? The Raiders. The Super Bowl comes, who gets the money? The Raiders. Go on and on and on. The Raiders are making bank, and that's why the Raiders are now worth $6 billion. The only way the Raiders would come back to Oakland wouldn't be for nostalgia. It would be if they had some compelling reason, and arguably Ray Bobbitt could give them a compelling reason in the future to leave their current situation and come to Oakland for something better. Now, do I think that'll actually happen? No. I think the more likely scenario is that Oakland gets an expansion NFL team. But the Raiders are already a great part of Las Vegas. They are one of the leaders in transforming football from sports to entertainment, making them a destination thing to do in Las Vegas, even if you're not a football fan. Hey, I want to check out a Raiders game because everyone talked about it. And then, hey, what if wait until they start winning? Because think about it, the Raiders are not a winner in Las Vegas, and yet they have the most expensive ticket prices in the NFL. They are the most sought after ticket. They are the most sought after ticket, or offer the most sought after ticket in the league. Just wait till they start winning. Okay. So that's a tall order to ask the Raiders to come down from, to come back to Oakland. The only way it would be to, it would go up, or some, I hope never to come disaster. Those are the only situations. But I can't see it. Can't see it. Max says Las Vegas Raiders for the next another 30 years, then possibly may. Yeah, after that, who knows? 30 years is a generation. John Akala says, what do you think the AASEG will do with the Coliseum? Do you think they'll try to get another professional sports team? The Coliseum Stadium, I believe, well, it's going to have to be refurbished or torn down. Well, maybe being a bit more blunt in detail, it will have to be refurbished to the point where significant portions of it will have to be taken out. Why? Among other things, the facility has an old-fashioned central kitchen. New facilities have satellite kitchens. What's the difference? Okay, if you are sitting here, it means that, or if you're sitting over here, or if you're sitting over here and you're sitting over here, and this is the arena, it means that the kitchen is central. Actually, it's really more over here, and the stadium is over here, okay? That kitchen, which was built going back to when the Raiders returned in '96, and at the suggestion of Block Consulting, means that you have to basically get the food from that kitchen and then to the arena, and it has to be transported up by tray. It takes a while. But we have satellite kitchens dotted throughout the arena and the stadium. That's changed. Both the arena and the stadium have that problem. So the arena is going to have to be redesigned significantly just to change that problem. And the stadium has not only that problem, but, and I know this from forming the bid to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, the Coliseum, we have a corridor width problem. We have a corridor width problem at the 200 level. If we added a third deck, we would have a even thinner corridor width problem. The common Super Bowl ready stadium has a corridor twice the width of what is at the 100 level. The Coliseum 100 level is when you walk in, main level, and you go to seats like 132, 128, right? That's the 100 level. That corridor width is 1/2 the width of stadiums like where the Texans play, what's called Energy Stadium, or Levi Stadium. But what I don't like about Levi Stadium, the reason why I don't believe Levi Stadium is the best model for the Super Bowl, if you're going to build a Super Bowl ready stadium, is because when you go up to the upper decks, and I was there for the Super Bowl 2016 Super Bowl 50, it's narrow up there. And what happens is when it gets crowded, you are waiting and it's hot and it's awful. And you're like, am I ever going to get out of here? Ever. I don't want anybody to experience that. Anybody, okay? Anybody. So corridor width is very important. And the other problem, which I dealt with the Coliseum, was access to the field. We do not have state-of-the-art vomitoriums and entryways. That's what they call them. Vomitoriums are where people go in and out, to get their concessions. But the entryways are at the field level. The modern stadiums have entry levels even at the 50-yard line. I had to work with Biggie Crane, and my contract was to pay them $50,000 and this was in $99 to build these new access areas. So that, why? Because you need to get the modern halftime entertainment equipment in and out quickly. Okay. The way the Coliseum is structured now, you don't have that ease of in and out. egress, ingress. That's not there. You have to design that in. So what better thing to do is you're going to start all over, take out that area, significantly redesign it. Why do I say significantly redesign it as opposed to tearing it down entirely? Because the material in the Coliseum, the concrete, survived the Loma Prieta earthquake. Do you realize that? Without a scratch. So you want to show me that you can replace it with something that can do better? I'm going to ask you how. I'm going to ask you, why not use the current infrastructure and make it stronger for the future? All right, strengthen the infrastructure. That is a solidly built facility. You understand? That is a solidly built facility. And so keeping it intact and building off of it is vitally important. Redesign it for modern entertainment needs, fine. But the basic materials and structure and concrete and reinforced concrete, all that needs to be built off of. You want to know why? It survived it survived a great quake. It survived a great quake. So if you don't copy that, you're a fool. That's all I got to say. Max says, people saying the Tropicana site for the A's won't work. Is that true, or will the A's be successful? The A's will be just fine. The people who are saying that are people who don't want the A's to move. Scott Robin, my friend of Vital Vegas, doesn't like the idea of sports. He's been very blunt about it. He says he's not getting paid to say that. The words against, the A's. And I said, hey, look, if you are, I got nothing but love for you. Fine. Because you are getting paid by somebody. And if somebody didn't like what you were saying and they're paying you, they pull your money. So he is getting paid to say it. All right. That's how I look at it. It doesn't mean it isn't legitimate, but he does have a constituency in Las Vegas that doesn't like the sports economic development focus. That is there. Okay. That is there. Okay. I think, but and the A's have a lot of time to get this right. They have what? They have, this is 2004. They have 4 years to get this right. And they already have, they're not starting from scratch. They've already gotten a significant amount of work done. They have a stadium design. They've got plans. They've got all that. There are just a few, I would say maybe 6 or 7 Las Vegas Stadium Authority meetings away from groundbreaking. All right. Yeah. Approvals. So they're going to get there. I would not listen to the naysayers because they obviously pay no attention to the Raiders process. They have no interest in process. They have every interest in just throwing out BS. So what do you think AASEG with the Coliseum, and do you think they'll try to get another special sports scene? I think I answered that one. So Chai says, thank you, Firebomb. He goes, don't you think it's ironic how certain pundits are now giving the Ballers ownership the J. John Fisher treatment? Oakland's too liberal for sports business. I think that has to do with the Ballers came in under the wing of Oakland Mayor Shang Tao. And to a degree, they started picking sides themselves initially, which is never a good thing to do when you're a developer. You want to stay neutral and just make people happy. But the Ballers sealed their fate when Mayor Tao was at the podium presenting them. And the only way they can come down from that is to really lobby the people who are against them and try to make them their friends. That's the hard work that they have to do. But they laid their own bed when they went to Mayor Tao. But they would say, hey, look, what are we supposed to do? She's the mayor. And they're right. But you have to understand how to, I hate to say this, you have to feel where the wind is blowing and you got to blow with it. Otherwise, you get blown away by it. That's just a fact. Okay. That's just a fact. Max Maverick says, people are saying the Tropicana sites for the A's won't work. I think I answered that question too. Always appreciate you all too. But now for 1 hour and 4 minutes, and I'm going to end this stream. Whew. Thank you all very much. Thanks, Ray Bobbitt, for coming on, giving us a great long 24-minute, almost 30-minute discussion. And then we have the subsequent, exchange here. I'll be back later. Thank you, Sir Chai, for the money. Much appreciated. Hey, by the way, looking for investors. Anyone out there care to invest 1,000 in Zenny 62 Media for exchange of stock? Let me know. And we are a private Delaware C Corp. And there is a secondary stock market where you can actually now get involved in selling your stock if you want to. I got pitched by an organization. I have a meeting with them Wednesday about that. Who knew? So anyway, let me know. Live long and prosper, everybody. I'll see you later. And thanks.